Good Monday morning. Last week we talked about giving, and I just wanted to take that even a step further this week with one of my favorite stories in the Bible where Jesus feeds the 5,000 men plus women and children. I can't even add that high. Math is the left part of my brain doesn't work nearly as well as the right. Philly was a math major, so together we make a perfect brain. See, God's so good. But Jesus has been teaching, I love it, it says he's moved with compassion. And so he just couldn't help himself. You know, he saw him there, his heart's moved with compassion. And so the disciples realize it's getting late, the people are going to get hungry. And they say, this is in Mark 6, this is the Message Bible that I'm reading from. When his disciples thought this had gone on long enough, it was now quite late in the day, and they interrupted. We're a long way out in the country and it's very late. Pronounce a benediction and send these folks off so they can get some supper. Jesus said, you do it. You fix supper for them. You put your faith into action. Because you know what I've learned is Jesus has a way of making the need always greater than what we have. I say it this way so often, he knows how to keep us dependent on him. And so most of the time, the situations in our life are too big, too great for us to handle on our own, proving our desperate need for him. He says, you do it. You fix supper for them. You step up in your place of faith, boys. They replied, are you serious? You want us to go spend a fortune on food for their supper? See, they're looking at it in the natural. Oh, don't we do this so often? We get our eyes focused on the natural place, and we miss that God's really about some supernatural spiritual work. And he says, but he was quite serious. How many loaves of bread do you have? Take an inventory. That didn't take long. 5, they said, plus 2 fish. Jesus got them all to sit down in groups of 50 or 100, and they looked like a patchwork quilt of wildflowers spread out on the green grass. Isn't that beautiful? Don't you just love how Eugene Peterson wrote this? He took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, lifted his face to heaven in prayer, and then he did these 3 things. He blessed it, he broke it, and then he gave it. The bread to the disciples, and the disciples in turn gave it to the people. He did the same with the fish. They all ate their fill. The disciples gathered 12 baskets of leftovers. More than 5,000 were at this supper. Jesus' way of doing things is very different than ours, thankfully. His supply is beyond anything we could imagine or ever know in our own strength or humanness. But what Jesus does, if we will allow him to, is he will bless what we have. We're blessed through salvation. We're broken through sanctification. And when those things are done in our lives, then he can give us forth. We don't learn how to have a giving spirit, I don't think, until we have been completely broken. When we've learned in our life that that self-sufficiency is an illusion, if you will. That there's nothing in us capable enough of being enough for the situations in our life. And so hearts that give are hearts that have understood that God is their blessing. They have been broken in his hands and he has been proven trustworthy. And now they are free to the enjoyment of giving. And do you know what I love in this is the heart of Jesus for these boys. They're men, but you know, Philly says there's a 12-year-old boy inside every man. That even though they did not have the faith to think of this themselves, 12 basketfuls were left over, which is such a representation of the extravagant grace of our Father. Friends, to give out in the natural or to give ourselves out in the spiritual, there are few greater gifts. God has a sufficient supply and can do amazing things with just your smallest amount. Don't miss the blessing of being a giver of resources or heart, because you will never be able to give more than God will give back.